Welcome back to the CQC Quick Start video series. This is video number 6, Home Layout. In the previous video, we looked at how to extend the auto generation system to add your own custom tile to the main tile screen, and also to associate an overlay with that tile if you wanted to, so that you could show extra information when the user clicked on it. In this video, we're going to look at how to add a custom layout page. And this is where you have your floor plan laid out on a screen, and you can lay information on that, like lighting and security and so forth. And it will always be used for security purposes, but you can also choose when we do the auto generation to have it replace the standard lighting screen as well, which is commonly done if you're going to do one. So let's look at how that would be done here. First, I need to get a couple of images in, which I have created for this purpose. So I'm going to expand that out. And this is the output from the auto generation system. And just like the user section down here where we have auto gen with the custom and output, let's go ahead and do the same here. So I'll call this one custom as well. Oops. And I'm just going to drag some images in there. The first one is the actual floor plan image. You can see those there. And I have a couple of images for lights, which are lights on and lights off. If I could actually press the right buttons there. And I have a couple of security images for good and bad. I call them window bad, but they would be for any security zone, really. Okay, so we have those in there. And now the other thing we need is a overlay. And if you remember in the last one, we created an overlay by copying one of the originals, and we just stripped it out. And instead of going through all that again, I'm just going to copy this one here because we didn't really leave anything in it per se, so it's pretty easy to reuse. Normally you would have put new information into it, but in this case it's still pretty empty, so it's basically as we need. So I'll just paste that in, and then I'll call this one layout, I guess, or floor plan. That'd be better. Okay, so let's set this up. And it'll be a little bit awkward as before because we're using a pretty small window here to record this, and these templates are larger than that, but you should be able to see what's going on. So let's open that. And the first thing I need to do is get the house layout in there. So let me do that. I'll do new, and then this is just going to be a static image, which we'll just put in the background. Of course, that's just the default image there. So let's set that image to the one we just created, or the one we just imported anyway. That becomes house layout. Size that up to fit. And you can see this just a simple house layout. It's not a complete one. I didn't want to take the time to do a complete one just for this little demo here, since it's not for a real house or anything. I'm just going to kind of center it here. But you get the point. It would have a lot of the internals and everything if it were a real one. And I just did add a little shadow to it to make it look nice. Okay, so for one thing, we have little slots here for windows, and we could do something similar for doors, but I'm just doing windows here. And what we want to do is put an image in there that would reflect the state of that security zone that represents that window. So let's do that here. I'm going to add a Boolean image, or actually let's do an animation. That would work even better. So we can make it blink when it's violated. So let's do a field animated image. So this is going to be an animated image driven by a field. Let's get this up here. And first what we want to do is to select a field. So let's do that. And in this case, I would assume this would probably be the kitchen in a real house here. So let's go to security zones, and then we'll do kitchen window status. And then we can select some images. And what we're going to do here is, when I come back, I will tell it to skip the first image. So what that means is it will normally just display the first image, and we'll set that so that it's the everything is okay image. And then when it starts animating, it'll alternate between the other images. So for this one, we'll set the everything is okay image. And then for this one, we'll set it to the bad. And then for this one, what we want to do, we want it to blink. So we're going to set this one to a blank image, and there's just a system image for blank. So it's just an empty transparent ping. So there we go. So we have that. And let's set this to tell it to skip the first one when it works. And now we need to set up the expression so that it blinks correctly. Well, let me get it sized and set up here. Let's set the background transparent. And then let's just place it over that a little bit. Okay, so now let's set up the expression. And what we want to do is say when it is not secure, then we want it to start animating. So we want it to be true when it's not secure. So let's set this description to kitchen window not secure. And we want to set the expression type to is equal, or let's say is not equal, and then we will select secure. We don't have to try to do multiple things. We can just say anytime it's not secure, then we want the expression to be true, and that'll start it animating. Of course, we could have set this equal to secure, then negated the result here, but in this case, we can do it just as easily this way. Okay, so let's save that. And I think this one's good. We'll test it and then come back and tweak it if we need to. So let's do a light now. And for this one, it really will be a Boolean image. Well, no, actually, that's not true. We want it to be a checkbox because we want to be able to also turn the light off and on just by clicking on it. So we'll do a fill checkbox. Get that up here. Of course, the default appearance is of no use to us here. Let's start by selecting a field. And let's say it looks like a living room, I guess. So I'll put lighting and then the living room dimmer. Yes, there's probably such a thing. So let's say living room lamp. It'll be a lamp over in the corner. And now let's set our images. We want to select the ones that we created. So this currently just got the defaults, which we don't really need. So let's go over here. And we want light off for the false. We want light on for true. And I don't think any of the others are in use. Nope, so let's save that. So we have our images now. Let's size that. Well, actually, let's get rid of the text. We don't want the text either. And now we can size it to fit. Okay, and actually we also want to center it here because right now it thinks it's still using text. Let's say center both, all right? And size the contents, and that will squish it down just to fit the image. And lastly here, we need to set up the light to toggle. So we need to set the actions on this checkbox here. So let's bring up the click actions. So this is on click. So if it's currently true, that means we want to flip it off. So let's do a field right and select our field. We're already on lighting, and this is the living room lamp. And we want to set it to false in this case. This is currently true. So let's copy those, go over to false, paste them in, and then just change the value to false, or sorry, to true this time. Okay, so now in theory, we have a light in a security zone that should work. So let's test this guy out here. We need to do the auto generation. So let's open that up. And we go down to overlays here, or extra overlays, and this is a special one, home layout. So we want to select our floor plan, and in this case tell it to use it for lights as well. So this replaces the standard lighting overlay to use this guy. Okay, so let's save that and let's generate. I won't sit around while this happens, so I'll be back when it completes. So let's just go ahead and start it here. I'm going to do images and everything in this case because we need to get these new images generated. So there it goes, and we'll be back when it's done. Okay, and through the magic of Hollywood, the generation is done now. So let's test this out and see how it works. Go over to the viewer, and this is just a previous one from some other video. So let's open up our auto-generated one. So it'll be an auto-gen output, and then for the particular resolution and room. So select the main, and here it is. And so since we said to replace the lighting, it should be used for lighting here. So let's click that guy, and there we go. And in theory, if we click this light, it should toggle on, and it does, and toggle back off, and it does. And if we violate the zone, this guy should start animating. So let's do that. I'm using a simulator driver here, and I'm going to have to simulate a zone violation. So let's bring that up. And if I believe the command is set zone state, and it's the area, which is house, and the zone, and which in this case was kitch window, and we set it to false, I guess, which is bad. And now let's go back over and check that, and there we go. It is animating, so that worked. And if we go back and unviolate it, it should stop. and it stopped. So there you go. That's basically it. And you would use this for security and lighting all over, right? So you would complete this and put in all the lights and the security zones for doors and stuff. And of course, if you need any other buttons, as I mentioned, just add some buttons down here, copy this one, update it, update the text, and have them do whatever you want. Oh, and I guess another thing you could do with the buttons down here is that if you had more than one floor, you could switch between those floors as well. So that's another possibility. All right, there we go. That's a good bit of work there, but you get a lot out of it. And the biggest work in most cases is just going to be creating this this floor plan layout and making it look attractive. I was able, of course, to just draw one, so I used nice colors that fit the color scheme and all that. So that could be a little bit tricky, but once it's done, and you have this forevermore. I just drew this with Inkscape. It would work with any sort of vector graphics or raster graphics sort of program. All right, we'll see you in the next video.